speaking of the Archons and love and stuff like that, since I give a lot of sessions, like I always get different insights when working with people and different issues, and like most of them, like I get most insights when I do sessions regarding entities. And one would think like entities and like those that like mess with people are just like Archons, like they're evil and they want to harm you and they're like just gonna fuck with you, and that's it. But as I do sessions, a lot of times I get into a place where I end up giving sessions to an entity messing with the person. And
Yeah.
as you talk with the entity and like give the session to an entity, they're afraid as can be to be alone. And like some of them, like I'm not saying all of them, but entities are also slaves of the Archons. Like those are freaking bullies, and these are like just beings that were messed with, and now they're terrified and completing all the commands of the Archons because that's their only way of existing. And so I've been giving sessions and stuff, and like giving like like release work on entities, and they get into a point where like they're afraid to leave, and being with a person and messing with them is their only way of existing. Or if they do not do their job, like messing with the person in one of the ways, the Archon will kill them. So they have like no choice, and they have to mess with the person, even though some don't want to, but that's their only way of existing. And so I end up like giving a session to an entity, and like in a few sessions we actually created a place, like a realm for the entity to live, and like invited the entity to be there. Like, hey, come on here, check this place out. And like we had like a realm with like chickens and stuff like that, and the entity was like, oh my god, chicken, and they were petting the chicken and stuff and
Aw.
playing, and all of a sudden that entity turns into a normal being like everyone else here who wants love and appreciation and approval and well that. And so you create a realm for that, and like put a defensive shield, like no Archon or no bad being can enter. The entity is safe. Bye. Like doesn't want to interact with human anymore. Just wants to be in that role of alone and play and enjoy life. So like there's a lot of ways, but like you do these kind of sessions and you get like a lot of insights. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. Like every session is different, but finding these sort of things, like giving sessions to entities and just realizing that they're just like us, they're terrified, they're being messed with, and they want to live a life just like us, in other realms. So that's pretty neat. Like different insights. It's pretty
Wow.
helpful.
So you're giving a client a session,
Yes,
and you end up you're giving him a session, but sometimes you shift over and you're giving the entity the session,
exactly.
that entity that was messing with the client.
Yes.
And so you get all that wrapped up. What's the clients think of this? They think does it work for them? Do they understand what's going on?
Well, like I explained the process and what we're gonna do and what we're going through and what's exactly happening in their world in my beliefs. Like it's not like I know it all. Like it's just I believe that that's the way it is. It's a possibility. So let's just go with that. If it's not, like we're gonna change it up. And like I explained the process and what we're gonna do. And most of the time they can either hear the entity or see them. Like people who are being messed with, like they have the insights. Like so they can hear the entity and they can talk. So like, hey, ask this question. They ask the question, they tell me the answer, and we keep communicating like that, right? Because I can see entities in person, but not through camera. So when we meet up, like if I was to give a person with the entity, like if I was to give a person a session who's like right here in person and they had entity problem, I could see the entity, I could communicate with it, and I could do the process myself. In the camera, like we're like someone's in America and I'm here in Lithuania, and with this sort of session, yes, it's different, but like they communicate with the entity themselves, asking the questions, they get the answers, I get the answers back, and like it's just a circle. But it's pretty neat. Like basically, after we created the realm for the entity and the entity left, like they never had a problem again. Like free, you know. So
Wow. And
it's
these
pretty
are in
cool.
soul contract revocation
Yes,
sessions,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
it's not even just a straight entity session. It's a soul contract
Yes.
revocation session
Yeah, yeah.
you're giving.
Because if I like, oh, I have an like agreement with this entity that is here, or just I agree that there is this entity, and okay, we remove like, okay, the entity is not there one, but they're still there, like they're messing with you. So like, okay, let's just find another thing, like another way to go with this. And I'm just exploring like as much as possible so that we could just get rid of it. And eventually, like when talking to the entity, you get like lots of feedback and realize that they're slaves as well. Like they're just like us who've been messed with, brainwashed, and if they don't do commands of the Archons, they're gonna be messed with and killed. And so what was their choice?
Wow.
And that's like what I realized. And a lot of times, like there's a lot of good beings who are being messed with, and that's their only way of survival, messing with us. And also a lot who are really completely bullies, dark entities, and like will lie to you a lot. Like there's times when I give a session to the NT and the NT is lying. Like I don't know that, but I just go with it, like. And you have to play games like mind games, just like to get there eventually. Where I ask a question, like eventually I hit it, like I hit their spot, and like where they go like, oh. Wait, and they stop and they start thinking. Like the entity goes inside or something, like looking inside. But it's pretty neat. So there's all kinds of things. Like I'm just like fascinated by that work because like there's tons of insights. So I love understanding more.